Australia is the next track on the F124 calendar, and it's a track that is really good fun to drive. It combines elements from both Bahrain and Jeddah, resulting in a fast and flowing circuit that really tests your car's willingness to grip during heavy cornering loads. This car setup is designed for online and offline races, and it's certainly not designed as a time trial setup. The highlights of this setup are that it's lightning fast against the AI. I actually had to increase my AI difficulty when testing this during a race compared to Bahrain and Jeddah. It's very capable through all corners, with tyre wear on the left of the car being the biggest constraint. Kicking things off, I've opted for an aerodynamic setup of 25 and 22. If this were a time trial setup, these would be much higher, but you really don't want to increase these while racing the AI. All of my car setups so far have had the wings set to pretty much the highest you'd ever want to set them at. If anything, you may want to decrease the aero by 1 or 2 points if you fancy making overtaking a little easier. For the transmission, I've opted for 55% on throttle. The majority of a lap around Albert Park could really benefit from this being a bit higher, up towards 65 or 70%. However, the final sector of the lap starts to become a bit trickier the higher you increase it. 55% is a good setting, taking all corners into account. For the off throttle, go with 45%. I've kept this low, much like our other car setups, to avoid too much over rotation at the apex. One thing to really avoid around Australia is to not touch the inside curb on turns 12 and 13, otherwise your car will start to over rotate. Go with 30% engine braking, although this could be set to 40% if you want to prioritise a little more EOS recovery. With the geometry, I've opted for -3.2 and -1.6 on the camber, and 0.09 for both front and rear toe. This is a good setup that really allows you to maintain speed mid-corner through those long sustained turns. When it comes to the suspension, there's definitely a trend in F124 car setups, and that is pretty similar to last year. A stiffer front suspension and softer rear is normally the way to go so far. Although in F124 you don't want the same level of aggressive offsets between the front and rear as we saw last year. For this setup, go with 29 and 7, then 5 and 2 for the ARBs. Set the ride height to 21 and 53, and this is designed to allow you to attack all of the curbs around Melbourne without beaching your car. Set the brake pressure as high as you feel comfortable with, I've chosen 98% with a 54% brake bias. Rounding out this car setup, we've got the tyre pressures. These are much more important this year than they were in last year's game, and you can do a lot more with them, rather than just lowering them all. Go with 23.6 and 24.2 psi on the front pressures and 21.6 and 21.8 psi on the rears. You can increase the pressures a little bit if you are suffering from too much tyre wear, but you shouldn't really need to. Increasing the pressures can come at the cost of finding traction out of the slower corners a little bit trickier. And that finishes our Australian car setup at F124. This setup is one of my favourites so far, as you can really attack the track super aggressively without worrying about instability. Hit the like button if you enjoy this car setup, or if you're excited for the full release of F124 tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts on this car setup in the comments below, and check out our other F124 setups using the card in the top corner. But for now guys, enjoy Australia and I will see you on track.